Welcome to Kaizen's PCS demonstration, including the benefit of Kaizen's analyst data services. Kaizen has been providing true automated process control for almost 25 years. Today, we will be demonstrating the first and only true concentration monitoring and control system. With hundreds of installations worldwide, we will show you why the most successful electronics manufacturers rely on the Kaizen PCS to keep their process and production in check. My name is Sherry Stepp, the Global Marketing Manager here at Kaizen, and I will be assisting in today's presentation. Let's get started. I would like to introduce to you Ram Wissel, Kaizen's VP of Technology, who is in our applications lab at our headquarters in Nashville, Tennessee, and Dirk Ellis, our Engineering Services Manager, who is joining us from his home in Missouri. Gentlemen, take it away.
Thank you for joining and taking some interest in the Kaizen PCS and real process control. What we're going to talk about today is why is that, and we're going to start with why is that important. And we think about inline cleaning processes, they tend to be very dynamic. If you look at the bucket there in the slide, you've got water and chemistry kind of coming into the top, but you also have several bleeds out of the bottom. And those things can be your exhaust draw, wash pump operation, the conveyor operation, and then the production volume, what type of parts you're cleaning and what your production volume is. So traditionally, what we see is in an inline machine, you typically lose about 8 gallons of wash solution an hour. And that's significantly more water than chemistry. So if your concentration is about 15%, you're probably going to lose 90 to 95% water due to the lower boiling point of water versus the chemistry. It evaporates more. So if we roll to the next slide, what does that really look like? And in this, if you look at start with that red line in the top, you start out with about an 80-gallon tank volume, and over just 2 hours, you're going to lose 15 to 16 gallons, which changes that volume of the tank dramatically, and you may be hitting a low level in the tank. What does that do for your concentration? Well, if we start at 15% and you're losing mostly water, what's going to happen is that concentration starts to climb. And so again, over 2 hours, you may be reaching, that upper control limit for what your concentration should be for your target process, closer to 16.5, 17%. So a lot of machines have a auto water top up. So if we look at that red line now stays really nice and flat at your 80 gallons, but because the machine is only adding water, your concentration now gets diluted. And so, you start off at 15%, in just a couple hours, you're going to be 13.5 or diving towards 13%. So you're going the other way. So the ideal control is really maintaining that red tank volume where it needs to be, but having a system that automatically makes a series of small chemical and water additions to maintain your concentration in a very narrow band or tight control band. And that's really what we've been doing with the PCS, as Sherry said, for 25 years. So if we go to the next slide, another question we get asked about is, do batch washers need that same type of control? And so Kaizen has studied this, and it turns out the answer is really no, because a batch washer is an enclosed chamber. It has a little bit of exhaust draw, but that's normally during the dry cycle. So it's an enclosed chamber that really is sealed up. And so what you lose is all the wash solution at the normal operating concentration. It doesn't disproportionately lose water. And so we've looked at several different machine manufacturers, and whether it be 10, 15, 20, or 30 cycles, the concentration stays really flat. So for that type of application, we have the Kaizen Analyst, which helps measure the concentration, but doesn't have the advanced capabilities of the PCS to automatically add water and chemistry in precise amounts. So there's a solution there, but it doesn't need as much control in a batch washer. So one of the things we go back and look at is, again, Kaizen's been doing this for 25 years. You look at the picture on the left, we actually have one of these out of the museum. It's the original remote operator interface. And it had kind of a 4-line LCD screen, kind of reminded me of my old graphing calculator and a couple buttons here. And we called it the remote operator interface because you were on a 25-foot tether. So the PCS box could be mounted somewhere, but as long as you were within 25 feet, you could be remote. Today's technology allows a little bit different version of remote. We're going to show some of those features today. So on the picture there, what we're talking about, it now the PCS has a 7-inch full color touchscreen, and you can have an app on your phone or a tablet. And what Dirk's going to show in a few minutes is being remote and having the same capability. So I'm going to set this back aside for now. And then the third picture there at the bottom again is the Kaizen Analyst, which is great and uses the same sensor technology as the PCS here, but it really is designed for batch type processes or where you don't need a lot of makeup. So one of the things that's really important today, besides control, is demonstrating that control to a prospective customer or to your OEM if you're doing work for them. So the PCS keeps a lot of data on all of its operating conditions and chemical and water additions. And so that data can be easily exported into an Excel or Minitab format. And what you see here is, you take the PCS's operating data, and now you can demonstrate that you have in Minitab here, an outstanding CPK and PPK value, and that's over 4,000 data points. So a few months of operation here. And if you had an audit coming in or a customer saying, "Oh, hey, how do you know you're making my parts with a quality process?" You have that data to back it up, that evidence. So that's really important. Besides just having the control, but having the data to back it up. So we go on to the next slide. What we're going to talk about today is demonstrate a few key features of an operation of the PCS. Some of the data logging and alerts that allow that outstanding control. And then another thing in the world today is this concept of engineering from home. Because of the virus and just the environment that we live in, a lot of engineers are either working from home or have very limited time on the production floor. And so what are some of the tools that technology we have in the PCS will allow you to be more efficient and be that responsible process engineer and know when your process is operating correctly, or can it reach out and alert you when there's an issue. So with that, we're going to scroll over, and what Dirk has here from the house is there's a software package that comes with the PCS. This is normally installed, if you were on your company network. Dirk is in Missouri, but he has a remote VPN network connection to our network here. So he's running this, and what you see on the screen here, it's saying it's 15.1% and 115.7 degrees, 0.6 degrees. Dirk, if you would hit that blue drum, now see, he hit the button there, and it changed on the screen here. So again, this is great if you're at your desk and you want to check on how the PCS is doing. Sometimes if the PCS may be in a clean room or in an area that's a little bit harder to get to or you have to dress out for. Again, you have a lot of flexibility and capability to get at the data in the operation. So if we start with the blue drum, it's saying that we have about 39.4 gallons of chemistry left in our drum. Since it was last reset, we've used 4.4 gallons. And right now, because it's in our test cell, it really isn't using very much chemistry per hour. And we'll talk about that in a second. And that's hour of pump operation. So Dirk, if we go back to the previous screen there, and we scroll over and look at the inline cleaner representation here, that first number at the bottom, 37 gallons, that's the volume of the tank. And so the way the PCS works is it's continuously measured. When the wash pump's running, it's continuously monitoring the concentration and making a series of small chemical and or water additions. And in this generation of PCS, it really tracks the tank level, so it can do the exact math on how much chemistry or water should be added to maintain both the tank level and that operating concentration. So right now we're there. The next number that Dirk's highlighting there is 46.7 hours, and that's wash pump hours. That's how many hours the wash pump has run since it's been last reset. And so when we look at water or chemistry usage per hour, it is it's using that number of wash pump operation. So some customers will say, well, how long should my bath last? And so the PCS will actually say, well, if you normally have 150 hours or 250 or 400 hours, you can set an alarm that will alert you. So it doesn't have to be just on a calendar day basis. It's actually on how much how many hours of operation the cleaning process is actually using. So Dirk, if we click on the inline cleaner there, and again, it's showing the 46.7 hours of wash pump operation, and the bath hours is 432. Well, that means it's been 432 hours since we did our last fill. So that 46 hours is probably just what we've used in the last week on this machine. So that can be reset independently. The wash tank volume, again, it's showing what the volume is and what the chemical consumption is and what water consumption is, and 1.6 gallons of water. Those values are really important because just last week we were helping a customer that normally sees their operation around that total of 8 gallons of wash solution consumed per hour of operation, and suddenly that shot up to 15 to 16 gallons per hour. A lot more water, but again, their chemistry consumption was up, and so this was those values were a very early indicator to say something had changed, and they were able to find that a valve had been left partially open, and so that was bleeding solution out of the system. So really important features there, and it also shows the water flow per minute, and this is for your inline cleaner. You want to make sure that you have good makeup water flow. Again, normally the same line that feeds the PCS or your wash tank is also feeding your rinse section. And if you don't have good water flow to your final rinse or to the rinse section, that can lead to other cleaning issues. And so we monitor and track the water flow coming to the system as well. So normally, if you see that at 3, that's a good number. If you see that dropping below 1, that's an indication again that something's changed in your process. So if we go back to that home screen for a second, I'm going to turn the pump on here, and you're going to see the pump there change from red to green and the plumbing light up, so you know that the machine's running. It's going to get a little bit noisy, so we won't leave that on very long. But there, now you know that the wash pump is running, and you're starting to see that temperature climb back up here in a second. There you go, because the tank solution is hot, but now the solution is flowing that heated solution past the sensor. It also says that the system is mixing, and so a lot of times modern cleaning agents have a solvent split, or it's a multi-phase technology, and so that will allow the system to mix and make sure before it responds that you have a well-mixed solution. So it is a little noisy. I'm going to turn this back off, and there, immediately the screen goes back to the red pump. So we've gone through those. If you hit the PCS button there, Dirk, it tells you what the current concentration is and the concentration set point. So again, the idea is to stay within 0.1% or 2 of the ideal set point in there. Again, how much water has been added and how much total chemistry has been added. And then there's another button there at the bottom that's the manual concentration log, which is one of my favorite features, because normally most processes, before you have a PCS, you have an operator that's manually checking the concentration once or twice per shift. They measure that reading, they take the split or refractometer reading, and then they log it on some sort of paper notebook or something. So here, what you can do is you can put in the manual reading, and I'm going to say I just took a manual reading, and I'm going to say it's at 15.0%. I'm going to hit enter, and then the initials here, I'm going to say RAM and hit enter. And now when I hit save reading, what happens is I just added a log there that says, okay, at this date and time, I took the reading and it was this. And so you save that electronically to go right along with all the data logging that the PCS happens, so or tracks. So it's a very powerful logging system. If we go back to the home screen for a second, now the next thing that happens is, the PCS, I like to think of it as autopilot. And so, because it does all the auto water and chemistry makeups, one of the biggest challenges, once an operator gets comfortable with it, it's you may not touch the drum every day, because if you're manually topping up, somebody every day is going over and tipping that drum over and measuring out a gallon or 2 and pouring it into the tank. Here, it does it automatically. So the PCS, it's kind of interesting. The camera should follow me over here for a second. There we go. So it actually has a smart drumstick. And if you look at the PCS cabinet, it's about the same size as a drum. It's basically the same footprint. It's just a little bit taller, so it's easy to see that screen. But in the PCS drum, as I start to pull this out, remember the drum's got about 40 gallons in it, so it's going to take a little bit to get removed here. But now you start to see a yellow light on the PCS and a yellow drum indicator on the screen. And that means that you have about 10 to 15 gallons, about 10 gallons left in the drum. So what that allows you to do is call your maintenance facility to get a new drum ready and available. If the PCS gets a little bit lower or the drum gets lower, then you get a red alert, a red alarm, and that tells you that the drum is empty. And so you get a couple different notifications that way. And actually, you can see that my phone, you may have heard it chirp. I just got a couple text alarms saying that the PCS had an alarm condition for the drum, and so it was time to get that checked. So what Dirk has on the screen now is you can see the different alarm conditions, and they're color coded by severity. Again, they have kind of a date and time stamp. But you can see what time the machine was a little bit low temperature when it started this morning, and then the chemical drum went low, and then it was the drum was empty when we did that test, and then it was silenced. So again, everything that all the operation for the PCS, whether it be additions or alarms, all gets logged, and so you have that permanent record. So if we go back to the home screen, the next thing is that under the Kaizen button there's 3 modes of operation for the PCS. And right now we're in automatic mode. And that means, again, it's in autopilot. You have your green light on the PCS. It's continuously, when the wash pump's running, measuring the concentration and automatically adding water and chemistry, which is great for normal operation. When monitor mode is if you were going to run maybe a special test or a qualification, or you wanted to measure how much wash tank volume or chemistry the process was losing without the PCS making up, you put it into monitor mode. And Dirk, if you do that for a second, you're going to see the light tower go to yellow. So you only get the green light in automatic mode when it's responding. But in monitor mode now, I'll still get the concentration readings, but I won't get it won't have the automatic top up and control. So we can put it back into automatic mode, and we know we're good there. The fill mode is great because when the PCS detects that the wash tank is empty, you can enable, or fill mode is enabled, and that will allow that operator to hit just a couple buttons and say, okay, I'm going to fill the tank up to 95% of its volume with the preset amount of water and chemistry. So again, it's eliminating operator exposure or the chance of spills while you're handling those drums. It just automatically fills up the tank with water and chemistry, and then goes into automatic mode. So it's a very friendly system for that. If we go back to the previous screen, or you go back to the Kaizen button there, Dirk, the next thing is we went through the alarms. You go to the data button. We're talking here a lot about the data, but on the PCS here, there is a USB drive that's saved. And what happens there is all the data, all of the information is stored, and we're talking about that, on a removable USB thumb storage drive. And so, everything's timestamped on that. So if you look at, it's talking about the PCS was in automatic mode, what the concentration was, it was at 15.2%. So it decided it needed to make just a little bit of a water addition. And it will actually show you exactly how much water it determined was needed and how much water was added, and then what the volume was at the start and end of the additions. So you have access to all that data here on the screen. And again, for that mini tab chart that we showed earlier, you can remove the USB. And before you do that, just like in your computer, you're supposed to hit the eject button. If you hit the remove USB button there, then you can remove that pretty easily. When you remove it or eject it, and then when you reinsert the drive, the logging automatically restarts. So With that, we've gone back. If we go back to the home screen, we've covered the basic features and operation. There's a lot of other settings and parameters for the setup of the system, but your Kaizen trained field service engineer will help you with that during the initial setup and startup. But it's a very intuitive, easy to use system. So with that, we're going to talk a little bit about, again, that engineering from home concept and the power of the Kaizen Analyst Data Services platform. So with that, I'm going to turn the ball over to Dirk for a few minutes.
The Kaizen Analyst Data Services is a real-time concentration monitoring and reporting platform. You can monitor your cleaning process from anywhere in the world using a web browser on your phone or computer or tablet. You can set user-defined triggers to notify you via the email or a text to appropriate personnel, such as when the drum needs changed, as Ram demonstrated there. All the data is stored in a normalized data lake to ensure the privacy and long-term historical data storage. And you can then customize your dashboard to see most important data to you. And this one's configured here to show the mode as we were showing in auto mode. The last concentration reading, 15.1, the current temperature, the consumption of the chemistry at 0.09 gallons per hour, any active alarms, the light tower status, how many wash pump hours, whether the wash pump is on or off, shows the concentration history over the time period, a temperature history over the time period, tells when the wash pump is on and how long it has stayed on, what the tank volume is over time and how the additions have gone, how much total water's added, the water flow rate. Scroll on down here, how many chemistry gallons have been added, how many gallons are in the drum currently, your average concentration over this period. It'll calculate the CPK for you, and actually the water consumption per gallon, standard deviation. So there's about 50 parameters that's possible to be tracked on the Kaizen Analyst Data Services. You can pick a time period here. I'll just go to the top here and look at the last few hours of today, and we can come down here and see the concentration history. It looks like the pump was turned on about almost 5 a.m. this morning, and then and taking readings over that time. You can also see down below here, the level of the wash tank was about 36 gallons, and then it made a small addition and lost a little more, made another addition. So these are the small additions that Ram was speaking about that it makes to help maintain this concentration steady and within your process parameters. And this is a live reading. You can Ram, if you'll turn that pump back on, we can see the values all start to change here. Values right away from anywhere you're at, and check in on any date or time of history. And it's a great historical log of your process. And if you have an audit, you can come back and go back months or years and look at dates to determine your process parameters during that time period.
Thanks, Dirk. And again, this is for the Analyst Data Services. You're logging into a secure web portal, so you don't need that VPN connection to your office. You just need to have the PCS exposed to an internet exposed connection, and that can be on a different network than your main on your main network infrastructure for if that's a security concern. So lots of flexibility there. And the other thing is it's just basically sending out operational data, kind of like the weather. There's no correlation to product data or what you're building or who you are. It's just the operational temperature, concentration, that type of data that gets exposed to your secure portal. So with that, we thank you very much for taking the time today to watch the video. If you have questions, we'd love to hear those. So with that, Sherry, we'll turn it back to you for a little bit of a wrap up.
Thank you for reviewing our demo. If you have any questions or would like a quote, please contact your local Kaizen regional manager. You may also reach out to our technical team by visiting the Contact Us page on our website.